All right, and three, two, one, and we'll go. Hey, Christina Dills, how are you?
Hi, Alan. I'm good,
Hey,
thank you.
first of all, no one can ever miss the saying that you have on the wall behind you. Life is beautiful. Every time I Zoom with you or whatever, like it's always just kind of a something that makes me smile.
Oh, good. I'm glad it met its purpose.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you look at it like you don't get to see it all day? You've got it as your backdrop, so other people get to see it. But you get to see it when you come and go from your desk.
I actually get to see it in meetings like this. So
Okay. Yeah, because you see
remind my,
yourself,
yeah,
right? So
yeah. And I, mhm.
you any story on that? I mean, other than the obvious that it's just a wonderful saying. Does it just make you feel a certain way, or is it kind of the message you like to send to the world, or is anything, any kind of little story you like to tell about it?
I think words have energy, and I
Hmm.
think that we can use those words for our benefit.
Yeah.
And I keep a journal about almost daily. And two things I write in my journal is kind of the things that I'm grateful for. So everything from, the sun in the sky to my daughter to, my dog, whatever. And then what I want to create for the day, like my intentions. And
Yeah.
so I think that, using words as reminders for ourselves keeps us kind of in that energy throughout the day. So,
Awesome. You kind of hit on two things there that are known to be really important. Like, I think the studies show that gratitude is like maybe the number one thing, that and exercise, right? But gratitude is like the most number one things you can do mentally to kind of ward off depression or anxiety or negative things in life. Like this, being thankful for things is like an antidote for um, you know stress and other negative emotions, right?
sure, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the new sciences, they talk about, the subatomic particles, right? So smaller than the atom, smaller than the electron. And what is at that base? What are those particles? And it's just frequency. It's just energy, right? So we are the base at the foundational level, just energy. And I think that gratitude kind of is the highest level of energy, the highest frequency that you can kind of get to. So putting yourself in that space every day, you're kind of setting your day up at a higher frequency. And, things are going to happen and they may bring you down a little bit, but at least you started at a higher level, instead of starting at a low frequency. Now you're in the,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, there's no
give
way to
yourself,
not feel better after you just do some, say some things to yourself around gratitude, things that you're thankful for. There's just no way to not feel better. In fact, it almost motivates you to do something. At least when I go there, I tend to get an idea or motivated to do something, generous in the world, because when you make yourself feel grateful, then you kind of want to do something to, like, just kind of reinforce it. I don't know. I think it's a beautiful thing. And you start your day like that. And then the other thing you mentioned was, things that I don't remember exactly the words you used. You didn't say
intentions,
manifest. What was it?
intentions.
Intentions. Yeah, I was thinking manifest, but
Mhm.
you like you paint the picture maybe for the day in your mind. Is one way to think of
Sure.
it?
And you manifest your intentions, right? So I create an intention every day, or at least one, more than one usually. And it's nothing specific, it's kind of general. Usually it's like I want to have fun, or if there's something specific that's going to happen, kind of like what's the overall general outcome that I would like to see. Things like that. Like if it's a day that I have a lot going on, I just say, let me get through the day with peace and balance and harmony, or things like that. I mean, the more general, I think, the easier setting yourself up for success. And you're kind of setting the things up in a there's a lot that happens in the unconscious level, right? In the subconscious level, that and when you have those kind of underlying intentions, it's kind of giving direction to that unconscious level that's happening around you. So,
This
a
this
lot of
stuff is
power in that.
this stuff is more powerful than anybody really realizes. I mean, some people know because they follow it closely and they practice, but it's more powerful than people really realize. And when people wonder how their life goes the direction that it goes and the places they end up, and the power of the mind is a big factor. That it's almost like you can't see it. Like that's the reason why we don't understand the power, because
Mhm.
it's so subtle in every day. Like the things that happen to you in life and the things that end up happening on a given day or where you go in life, you've actually directly slash indirectly guided yourself there, usually without knowing that you ended up exactly where you were. Your mind was taking you, but you never. But if you don't understand this, you never were in control of your mind. Like that's it's just really powerful. I've always wanted to be more aware of this stuff. That's why I'm asking you about it.
Mm. I mean, we can even have an off session just for that because I'm a like, so I study neuroscience,
Yeah.
and I can do hypnosis. Like I got certified. It was part of,
Oh, wow.
my journey of self exploration. I had a lot of issues and anxieties and things like that, and I heard hypnosis help. So I said, well, let me learn how to
Oh,
do it,
wow.
and so, and I
That's
did it on
cool.
myself. Yeah, yeah,
That's
but I learned all this things about the mind and the thoughts, and, we live life, just kind of not really putting awareness or focus on our thoughts, and that's why things just happen to us. But,
hmm
the best way to predict your future is to create it through your thoughts, through your intentions every single day.
wow. Wow,
Yeah.
we didn't even expect. You and I have talked 2 or 3 times in the last week. Even like this topic just jumped out, and I love it when the serendipitously topics like this jump out, and it's really important for entrepreneurs. So this podcast is dedicated to aspiring entrepreneurs, as you know. I mean, my whole purpose is to
Mhm.
bring successful entrepreneur stories, forward, so that aspiring entrepreneurs who have not taken the leap yet can like hear kind of what it's like, and lessons learned and advice and stories and be able to relate and all these things, right? So that's really cool that this one came up, because it could be the most powerful tool in the toolbox for an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. I always say if anybody asks me what do you recommend, I always say set up your day every single day. Tony Robbins calls it hour of power. Different leaders and motivational speakers, they talk about it too. And, you if you set up your day with intentions, with gratitude, with exercise, those are my three. Well, I do gratitude, my journaling, I do exercise, and I connect with nature. Those are my 3 things that I make sure I do every day. And those
Fantastic.
3 things, like, when you do that, you're giving yourself the best probability to have success that day. And every day is a new day, so you really do have to kinda take that and make it sustainable. I'm not saying to take a whole hour or 2 hours to do that, but, I do,
Yeah.
well, I do meditation too, so I have my meditation, my
Mm,
journal, I go out into the woods and I ride my bike, I connect, I breathe the air, I thank
fantastic.
nature for the air and for everything. And there's something in I can't explain it, but there's something that like powers me up when I do that every day. And it gets me, on this kind of high flying, vibe all day that I can just manage to do a million things and make it look easy.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. It's funny. I think I
yeah.
commented last time you and I had a call. I said something like you just have this kind of zen about you, and you and I have gotten to know each other the last year, several calls, and um, and you just have this um, zen aura. And I've never met an entrepreneur, especially with 3 different startups going at once, that kind of was able to have that. And now I've unlocked it. This is the first time we've had this conversation, so now I know.
Mhm.
Now I
Now
know.
you know my secret.
I know the
It's
secret. So this is cool. So, and by the way, speaking of manifest and intention, you had a big day yesterday at
Mhm.
the Tampa Innovation Center down in St. Petersburg, which is an amazing organization, by the way. Tanya Elmore, Ken Evans, and the startups that they work with, and then the big new facility that they're building. So, did you get? I know the answer to this. Did you get up yesterday and really put that intention? I mean, because you were in front of judges yesterday. You had to do your pitch, and you had to take
Mhm.
questions on a live Zoom. It was a pitch contest, right? Not no not a contest. It was a showcase. I'm sorry, it was
Yeah.
a
It
showcase.
was a little bit different than a contest,
Yeah,
so it was really nice. I liked it because they were really looking out for the entrepreneurs and trying to help them to progress to the next phase. And so they asked good deep questions and gave suggestions and all of that. So it was a nice format. And yeah, I think and it was kind of the finale of the accelerator program. So that's the whole point of it, right? So we spent during the shutdown, we were actually in an accelerator program online, right? So we were meeting every week, and Ken and Tanya and then the mentors were all kind of going through this, crash course of a successful entrepreneurship, which I loved. I really I was debating whether or not to do it, and I'm so glad I did because I had a lot of things going on, and it's a big time commitment. But with COVID happening, actually, it opened up the space for me, and it was a perfect timing to kind of sit down
Awesome.
and evaluate everything about the company and how I was approaching things and really fine tune it. And so, and the showcase was kind of like representing that progress that we made in the accelerator program.
It was great, and I sat in because I wanted to watch, because I knew we were going to do together the next day, and I said, well, I'm going to want to watch this because I want to be able to tell Christina that I watched the day before, because I did.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was really good, and it was also good to see my friends Tanya and Ken in action, and the judges and so forth. So this is not your first rodeo for pitching. So you've pitched 1 million cups in Tampa, St. Petersburg, and you've
Yeah.
also pitched at Synapse conference, which is our mega entrepreneurship conference every year. Um, do
Mhm.
you enjoy it? Do you feel like you get value? What's your take on pitching rooms, startups?
Yeah, I mean, there's different flavors because they have different formats. Some of them you feel like it's the Hunger Games, because you're just competing and it's a harsh type of competition, and they set it up for entertainment, so you're the entertainment. And so to something like, that's more like what we did yesterday, where it's more about helping out the entrepreneur versus, making them the entertainment. So, I have my opinion about format in terms of but in terms of pitching, I think it's part of the journey of being an entrepreneur. So you're not going to get out of it, and you have to learn how to communicate your company, your idea, your value. And
Yeah.
so it's so important in those pitches, even though some of them are gut wrenching, they teach you so much about yourself, about even your company. Sometimes in a pitch, you realize that, hey, this doesn't sound right, or hey, this didn't go well with the audience. Maybe that's not as valuable as I think it is. So it really you learn so much in the process, even though it might be a few minutes or however many minutes, all that preparation, the reaction, the questions, there's so much you learn. And honestly, like, I've bombed in my first pitch at 1 million cups where I had people threatening me with legal issues, not like
Wow.
personally threatening me, but telling me I was going to have legal issues because I was infringing on their privacy, things like
Wow.
that, because they didn't understand what I was doing, but I didn't explain it
Which
well.
forced you to
Yeah.
tighten up your message, and you clarify your
Yeah.
story, and right.
Sure, sure.
Powerful.
And I had to
Now,
pitch in Dubai too. That was an interesting one.
wait, whoa,
So,
wait. I didn't know you did. I didn't know you. Okay, wait a
yeah.
minute. But that wasn't recent. That was right after you left Microsoft, which we're going to get into. Is that right, in Dubai, or?
Yeah, that one came up pretty quickly after I left Microsoft, an
Okay.
opportunity to join the GITEX technology event. It's like over
Mm.
100,000 people from all over the world go to this event. It's huge. It was amazing experience.
All right, we're going to
Really
get into.
kick-started.
I can't wait to get
Yeah,
into that one, because this was
yeah.
a big part of your leaving Microsoft story, which you were with Microsoft for almost a decade, and we're going to get into that because that's one of my favorite things
Mm,
about you, Christina. We talked many months ago when I launched my book, Put to Start, which about aspiring entrepreneurs, being able to leave a job to be an entrepreneur, make the leap, and you're on my on my tracking sheet, because you did it in a big way. You did it in a big way. You left a big company, like you left Microsoft and a really high paying job that you didn't have to leave, and you made this leap, and you did it for all the right reasons, but you also did it with a plan, and you kind of did it the right way, which is what I try to inspire others to do. And so that's a big part of the story I want to get into. But before we get there, I have like a tradition where I throw up a kind of an opening question, and just because I like to do this to just dive in, right? So this is the one I came up with for you, Christina, and it says at some point does it call your name? So this gets a little bit to the story of when you were at Microsoft, where um, you when
Mm.
you were describing it to me, like it just kept you were becoming less and less fulfilled. All right, that's one word, and maybe you could paint that a little better for me. But it was just um, this growing something missing in your life. Am I right?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like something I knew I had inside me that I wanted to express, that I wasn't expressing, it felt like that. It was like it was kinda I mean, calling, I'm not sure how to express calling, but it was like, you wanna cook something and you're like, "Ooh," you get this appetite to make something and you wanna just, like, make it. It was kind of like that, like this urge inside of me. But I think I've always had that entrepreneur bug inside of me from a young age. But at the same time, in Microsoft, it was just, all the innovation, being there so long. I mean, when I started, there was desktop computers and it was really like, I mean, imagine back in, 2000, 2004.
Yeah.
And so like in that time, it was a lot different. We didn't have iPhones, we didn't have, Android, like it just wasn't there. We had like old school desktops, maybe and laptops too were coming faster, but and then to see that innovation over time and then get to a point where you start seeing things like sensor technology and AI and blockchain. I mean, I felt like I caught a virus. I couldn't stop learning about it. And I was taking every course I could find to learn about the new technologies, and I knew that I was going to use it to create it. I was
Right.
learning
Right.
kind of the building blocks behind it, and I said, "I know this is what I need to do. This is my purpose in life is
Yeah.
to create technology, to make this planet more sustainable, to live in harmony, to live in balance with technology
Yeah.
as that support tool for
Right.
us."
And you were describing to me too that that not only were you kind of really curious to get in the game of all of this new stuff that was rolling out, but you also were talking about how you had this really you were making more money than you had imagined. You had this amazing car, an amazing condo, and I think you were in Miami or in Miami Beach. And you just had it all in a way for a young lady in her late 20s, and but it just wasn't kind of doing it for you. Felt a little unfulfilled, right? There was also like this life component.
Yeah. And also it was like this at that time, I was making for my age, phenomenal money, right? So I was
Mhm.
making amazing money, living on the beach. I mean, every morning I woke up to the sunrise on the ocean, so it was just like I was like, wow, I made like that's what I wrote it down in my goals for the year. I wanted to live on the beach. I wanted this, I wanted that, and I got it, right? And then when I was there, like I was looking for happiness outside, right? So I was looking, I said, "Oh, if I get this and I get that, I'm going to be happy." Right? But I wasn't because, I mean, I was working 10, 12-hour days, and then I was exhausted, and, friends weren't really friends, and, it was just it didn't, there's something
Right.
more to life, and, I mean, we
Yeah.
talked about it in the beginning of this, right? And there's that mindset, there's that consciousness in us, there's something else besides the physical that we need to be complete and to be fulfilling. And,
Right.
creating is kind of like that act, that expression that fills that gap, right? So and I
Yeah.
wasn't. I mean, at that time, I think I was a finance manager. So I was just, really, really into the job, but it was very consuming, and I knew I couldn't do it long term. And I saw people who were, in the company 10 more years than I was, or 15 more years, and they still were working 10-hour days, 12-hour days, just consumed by the
Mhm.
job. And I saw like a future version of myself doing that, and I was like,
Right.
hell no.
Right.
That is not gonna be me, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
and I'm so grateful though, like, if there was I had such an amazing experience the smartest people, the best people to work with. I mean, you can't blame anything. Everything had its
Right.
purpose and was
Yeah.
awesome because it helped me to really gain the confidence, the skill set that I needed, you
Yeah.
know? So there's no bad feelings there.
Yeah, of course. It was more about you. It wasn't
Yeah.
about the company or the anything around that. It was more about what was inside of you that needed more, needed to change. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
And I was pretty, the people I was close with, they knew that. They knew
Yeah.
there was a time limit. And I
Yeah.
mentioned, I think, my boss too, I was like, I'll do my best. You'll always get the best from me, but I'm making my plans, you know. I'm
Right.
I'm I'm planning my start, or what did you call
Right. 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 I
So,
love it. I want to take a quick time out to take a look at our
oh
sponsor here.
no.
Our sponsor, Secure Startup. So this is the site and the tool that helps startup founders exchange their key documents between startup founders and investors. So it's like the signatures and all of the confidentiality needed and taken care of for that specific task. So that's securestartup.com, and and we know that that can be a pain in the butt. Christine, you haven't had to. I think you've self-funded most of your startups. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it came from my savings. I took out a small loan just to
Mm-hmm.
give me some more, and that right now is so cheap. And so,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you do it, if you're smart about it,
Mm-hmm.
people have this misperception that it takes millions of dollars to get a startup going.
Right.
And if you do it smart and, you do it the right way, you really don't.
Yeah.
You just gotta take some time to do the first steps. And Kenda did an amazing job in the accelerator program going over what those steps are. And everybody there was bootstrapping. So there was nobody there that got, and when you hear of these like, "Oh, this startup got $200 million or da da da," I mean, it's so
Mm-hmm.
misleading, It makes everybody think like, "Oh, if I go get a startup and I create an app, I'm gonna get an investor." I mean, I had the same thing, like misperception at the beginning. I was like, "Ooh, here's a $2
Yeah.
million idea." Yeah, not gonna happen.
Well,
So,
here's the problem, though. People don't realize is
mhm,
that first of all, that's really rare and hard to pull off. Quote the investor and so forth. But what people just don't realize is that most entrepreneurs have fought really hard to for independence, and that's one of the reasons they're an entrepreneur is because they don't want a boss per se, and they really want to, the independence of entrepreneurship and to make your own destiny and to be able to make things happen. You take an investor, you've taken a boss, right? People don't
yeah,
realize that an investor, yes, some investors are very hands off and not active and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're not hitting your milestones after you've taken investment, if you're not on track and the progress isn't going to the level that you said it would, those investors start getting up very uncomfortable and start
yeah,
asking harder and tougher questions. And as they should, it's their money, right? And you find out quickly as a founder entrepreneur that it's taking other people's money investment, it can be not fun really fast, and all of a sudden it feels like you did 3 or 4 years ago when you back to having a boss. And it's interesting that that's not always understood, by the way.
yeah. And not only that you gain a boss, but you also lose part of your company, So, I mean, we had an offer and I was just like, no, they want to take a big percentage and then they want, to tell you what to do, take a
Yeah,
big percent.
you're
I mean, if
reporting.
you look,
Mhm. And you're somebody
yeah,
new to report to, somebody to report. I think that's what I mean by a boss, like basically somebody you got to report to now.
yeah. And then yeah, I think it was, Elon Musk. He At the end of the day, he only had 7% of PayPal. I mean, he still got a good payout for that,
Mhm.
he created the company and he got 7% when he left.
Yeah.
So it just shows you, like, investment, it's not a bad thing, but you gotta know when's the right timing, and you
Yeah.
have to have more leverage. If you go too early on and you get investment, you're losing all your leverage and your
Yeah.
vision, and then they care about revenue. And
Yeah,
sometimes revenue is not always the first thing that you need
that's right. Yeah.
to focus on. It's, of course, it's always the
Good
end
luck
game.
explaining that to an investor that revenue isn't the first thing. When we know from the
Oh,
startup game, the truth is that revenue is for tech startups is not the first priority, and that's often very
yeah.
hard for an investor, especially an angel investor that hasn't done a lot of tech investing. It's really hard for them to get their head around.
Yeah. I know I had that question at the pitch contest at the Synapse,
Mm,
and I thought, well, two of the judges agreed, but they asked me that, oh, which is more important, revenue or customer growth as a startup? And I was like neither. I was like, it depends on where you are as a startup, what KPI makes you, incentivizes you to the right behavior. It's all about lining that up. So sometimes revenue is just too far away to make that the most important thing. If it's too far away, it's kind of like trying to jump and not being able to ever, reach that top. So
right,
if the step is too big, you're not going to make it. You got to make smaller incremental steps along the way.
right.
And
Yeah, I love that,
sometimes,
Christina. I love your confidence. I mean, you're so centered about these things, and like you said, you got that tough question. And so many founders would quake in their shoes or try to give the answer that they know that that person wants to hear, and you just say neither, and you don't care. And I love that. I think that's one of the cool things I like about your style. I like for people to see that you can be a you can be a centered person, and you don't. And part of being an entrepreneur is technically not having to answer to anybody other than the market, your users, and yourself, and your team, and you're true. It's your vision, and it, and letting people push you around, not you specifically, but letting any founder push them around just because they have money or because they're quote quote successful or whatever, is where things get pretty twisted pretty fast. I see it a lot.
yeah, you got to know your truth. You got to believe in yourself, because that's the only truth that's in you. And nobody's going to know your business better than you. Now, I'm
Right,
not saying don't be flexible. I mean, be open to hearing things, and if it makes sense, and, there's always learning. But at the
right.
same time, when you know something and you really know it, you defend it,
That's
or,
right.
you have that courage and conviction. And you know what? That's admirable. And when you have that,
Absolutely.
like that's gonna get you
Yeah,
far.
I love it. I did it to me, this idea of just being overly malleable for a founder. I'm not a big fan of that for the most part. In most cases, I believe that founders need to have a strong vision of what they're trying to accomplish, do their homework, listen, but be, really determined about what they're trying to accomplish, and not let their vision become too twisted and watered down just because of too many opinions. I did a whole podcast with Steve Fisk when talked about like the whole concept was, what to let in and what to leave out, and really what to keep out of your mind, and that goes for feedback and opinions is part of the big part of the battle for a startup founder,
Yeah.
because everybody wants to give you their opinion and thoughts, and everybody's got different levels of credibility, and it can get pretty messy fast for a founder. They don't see it coming.
Yeah. And it's tough, and I heard something, and it was like, keep your ideas to yourself until it's actually got roots, until it's really grown into something more. Like even Immunity Ledger, I just announced it yesterday, but I've been working on it since February, because I don't like, that's part of the process. People that, and it's only a reflection of themselves. So, I tell my 7-year-old daughter this. I said, don't ever believe what anybody tells you because whatever they're telling you is just how they believe about it for themselves,
Right. Right.
and it's just a reflection. So they're just telling you about themselves, not
It's
about you.
got some value. It's got some value, but
Hmm.
it's not the whole answer.
And you also have to see the filter they're coming through. Some people, they have a mindset of scarcity, of lack, of unworthiness. So they're coming through that filter. So they're projecting it on you. So if they can justify your idea or your business not being something, or, it's because they don't believe they could do it themselves.
Oh my
Right. So,
gosh.
and
Now you're getting into a
yeah.
really important topic here. No, really, this
Uh,
is a big deal. Like you'd be
mhm.
surprised, you're the sometimes the friends and family who you think would be the first ones to be raving fans of what you're doing often are put off by maybe the possibility that you might be doing something so successful that they you leave them behind, or that you know how it is with a small town or any other, like, people want to keep, they don't want you to get too big for your britches in some cases. And then and just, or there's other cases where someone is again trying to dissuade you from something because they are scared of doing it, and it makes them feel good to tell you, oh, beware, make sure you don't do that, or be really afraid of this over here. And by the way, it has merit. There is probably a lot to be afraid of with that, right? But
Mhm.
it doesn't have to all of a sudden dominate your mind as something to be afraid of just because it dominates their mind.
Yeah, yeah. And it's tough because they're around you and they're an influence and they're
Hmm.
connected. That's why you have to keep your strength, your kind of strong, way of being because you got to just let it ping off at you because it's going to
Yes.
happen. You got to get that thick skin.
Yeah.
Because I saw a meme, it was really cute. It was like, all the time that it took you to like create the successful company, how many supporters you had. It was like 2 or something. And then it was like after, you hit $1 million revenue, how many supporters you had, 1,000 or whatever. Like it's kind of like people jump in after they see it happen and then they justify it. Oh, well,
Yeah.
he had this help or he had this luck or and again, it's a reflection of themselves, right? It's
Right.
nothing to it really has very little to do with you or nothing to do with you.
Right.
And
That's
I saw that at Microsoft too, other managers, and other, people colleagues getting very jealous of, I would just get excited and tell them, "Hey, I'm working on this blockchain contract, like this consulting thing on the side." And I thought that we were close and we were friends, and when they heard that, whoo,
mm.
it
Hey,
was like
Christina, I've got a chapter in
yeah.
my book that to
Mhm.
start about people in jobs and rising the ranks, the entrepreneurial mindset person. I've got a chapter in my book called "You Are a Threat." It's the name of
Mm.
the chapter. You are a threat,
Ah,
and what I meant by that
so
was,
true.
if you're an ambitious entrepreneurial mindset person in a big company or any medium-sized company or whatever, or even small, you're achievement minded, you're results oriented, and you're competitive that way. But for the most part, most entrepreneurial mindset people I know of are trying to accomplish things, and they're interested in results, and they really are not trying to they're not trying to do it at the harm of other people. I know so many founder entrepreneurs. One thing I know about founder entrepreneurs that seems to always be true is they're not petty, like that. They're not, even though they are winning a lot, they're usually not trying to do it at other people's expense. It's just they don't have time for
Mhm.
that for the most part. They're very focused on like a product or a solution or some kind of outcome or something like that. But other people can interpret your results oriented determination inside of a company or even outside as you're trying to win at other people's expense, and you're like, no, I'm not. I actually want everybody to come with me. I just want to do really great work. And it
Yeah.
can be interpreted as a threat. And I wrote about it as a threat because then you technically, in a company like Microsoft, you can start making other people look bad, and you're like, I'm not trying to do that, but I'm sorry that you feel that way.
I know. It was really tough for me. And I realized I should have just kept my mouth shut and not told them anything. But I was getting so excited, like so
Yeah.
many things were coming together. I was making so much money on Bitcoin and all these different cryptos that I bought in early and they were getting up to 20K. And I was just like, "Oh, I'm doing good."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just couldn't, and it was my own, like that's why I said keep your ideas to yourself, keep everything to yourself. And I had to learn that the hard way, the hard lesson. I mean, in a room, a friend of mine that was in a meeting, I wasn't in, but she was like, my manager, he said I was overly ambitious and I was using my connections at Microsoft to advance my career, my business, that I had started. And so like it started creating some problems and I got so angry. Oh, I was livid because I wasn't doing anything to hurt. Like you said,
No.
I wasn't trying to throw people under the bus or stomp my way through or be, take Microsoft clients or nothing like that. I was
Trying
just
to be the best you could be, making the most of all the opportunities that are in front,
if
right?
anything, I was trying to be a partner and help Microsoft, and, I was like I couldn't understand. I was like, "I'm gonna be helping Microsoft. Like, I'm gonna be an amazing partner that's gonna bring new technology with Azure," like, that was my mindset, and then,
But it
it's
gets
just like you
interpreted.
said,
It gets
I was a
interpreted by,
threat.
like you said, other people's insecurities, and they like you said, the lens earlier. We all
Mhm.
have lenses. We all have insecurities. You and I are not immune to this. We do it ourselves. But the way people um, the way people handle when they other people that they know are close to them that are being more successful than they are, or whatever, or perceived to be heading towards that way, they either perceive that as a threat or otherwise, right? And many people
Yeah.
have to see that as a threat, and it's like, but you're right, it's a reflection of them, not you.
Yeah, and at the time when you're in it, it's hard to say that because 'cause you're just feeling
Yeah,
feeling it, so
yeah.
I wasn't at that time going, "Oh, it's a reflection of them." I was more like, "Mother
But even then, that would sound snooty. You wouldn't want to say that anyway. That would
I
sound
know,
arrogant of
but
itself, right?
yeah,
You can't
but
win. You can't
afterwards,
win.
I was just like,
You
yeah,
can't win.
yeah,
To your point, there's no winning. You're right. I think that there's really only one or two, maybe three people in your life at any given time that you can truly, you just
trust.
speak fully free
Yeah,
about what you're doing without that person, feeling hurt, somehow affected, like that, that they're unconditionally uh, happy for you and
supportive.
supportive,
Yeah.
and right, there's only a few people that really in your life that it's unfortunate, right?
Yeah. Talk to yourself, write in a journal. That's
Hmm.
what I do. I mean, I literally do sometimes talk to myself. I'm like, "Oh, that wasn't too bright." So, or stuff like that, but that's, you just keep it to yourself. You'll be doing yourself a favor. I know we get excited for things and we wanna tell everyone because we're just so excited about it. But you do just as much as possible, keep it to
Yeah,
yourself until the ideas are more formed, until you have more momentum going that they can't stop you.
that's right.
Once you have that momentum and you're like, "I already got a
Yeah,
client. Look at that."
yeah. Yeah,
So then
but then they just join your bandwagon, because then once you've crossed the line of success, then they all of a sudden don't see you as a threat anymore, because now it's kind of a weird, it's like escape velocity, right? Like when you're still
no, they
kind of
wanna they wanna they wanna jump on the bandwagon to try to see if they can get something from your success.
right, or just pretend like history didn't matter, and now now, like, I was your biggest supporter. It's weird. We're all human. Like, I mean, like, it's a
Yeah.
human condition thing, right? And but it is something entrepreneurs should know. And I agree with your advice that be careful, be sure you know who, if you're really, you've got to talk about your idea and so forth. But there's the kind of the filtered, controlled way of talking about what you're doing, which is kind of consumable for everybody around. But then there's the unfiltered, unrestrained, honest communicate that is got to be reserved for just very few people. Once you truly know that they have your best interest in mind and that they truly are unconditional in their relationship with you, right?
Yeah. And, you some like you said, some people you give a little bit and some more, and when you find somebody you can trust or that's why, one of the first steps of building your company is finding your teammates, right?
Yeah,
I think that's actually one of the hardest parts at the beginning because you need to find people that complement you, that support you, and those are gonna be the people that you can have those deeper conversations and kind of
yeah,
form those ideas with. And those that needs to be like your pack,
yeah,
the true like and those are the ones that you go to and share and you build it together. You're
yeah,
co-creating it together. And
yeah. And you can
so
almost
you
do. There's almost two ends of that spectrum, right? You can be super uh, cocky or confident, or you can be super excited and be completely unguarded, like unguarded about, and you don't have to worry about how they feel, like they're going to just see it as it is and support. And then on the success side, but then there's also the side of vulnerable, right? You can also be vulnerable to those people, right? And that pack, the people that are there to truly support you unconditionally. You can be both vulnerable, but you can also be
Just be who you
excited.
are.
Hmm.
Be authentic. If that authentic is, a little cocky sometimes, so what? Accept that. That's you, you know?
That's right. I
I
was going
I
to say
mean,
braggadocious a minute ago, but I was trying not to say the word. But sometimes you want to like be excited about something, and it's
yeah.
like you're like you might throw some f bombs and be like, this is all and like you want somebody to be like, yeah, you're hype boy or your hype girl.
Yeah, you want them to hype you up too, you guys wanna have that synergy. I mean, you have those kind of people. I have a friend that's like that. When we go out, when we do things together, it's like we hype each other up, and maybe from somebody else, other perspective might look like, "Oh, they're full of themselves." And you know what? Who cares, you know? It
Well,
feels good, do it.
that's right. People forget that,
Yeah.
that's the other thing a lot of people don't know. Like, entrepreneurs and leaders and people that are, doing things like accomplishing big things that we put on a persona a lot of times of confidence. And yes, we carry ourselves with confidence. And yes, we do accomplish big things. We're doing more than maybe most and all that great stuff. But we're on the inside, we're not as confident as we may look. Like I'm speaking for you and me right now. We're all like,
Mhm.
we're all insecure about the stuff we're doing. We don't feel like it's as good as we're all racked with fear and anxiety and insecurity. And we have to meditate 3 times a day to deal with it. So sometimes, even people like that are already having success and doing and are already separating, doing, they need to blow off steam too, and need to make them. They need to be able to feel good about themselves, right? It's not just people that are struggling need to be picked up and supported. People that are being successful need it too, because we're all human down inside.
Yeah, and it's kind of that self-exploration too. I mean, we're always growing and expanding. So wherever you are, you're on your way to the next level, right? So that's the only like in an entrepreneur world, that's the only way we can be. That's that personality where we're growing, we want to grow, we want to go to the next thing, we want to make things better. That's the mindset that comes with it. And so having that mindset, it creates that environment that not struggle so much, but that growth factor. Sometimes it's painful in growing, right? You go work out and your muscles, rip the muscles apart to rebuild them. That's painful. And so, but you grew, right? So from it.
Yeah.
And it's the same scenario. Sometimes, you got to push through that pain period. And having someone is great, but you got to, at the end of the day, you got to depend only on yourself. And that's why I
Right.
say you set up that time every day for yourself because that's your time. That's your
Yeah.
time. You work. It's not an outside job, it's an inside job. All like being an entrepreneur is the toughest one of the tough. I think that and being a mother, those are like the toughest jobs in the world for me at least.
No
And
doubt, no doubt, no
yeah,
doubt.
try.
You should never do them at the same time, but many women do,
Oh.
and it's like, wow.
I don't know, my daughter was still but yeah, it's a tough job, and you have to be tougher, right? So
Yeah.
so that you can go the long haul because it's not a short term, it's a lifelong journey.
So Christina, let's step back a bit. Let's
Mhm.
do a quick walk through your backstory. You grew up in South Florida in the West Palm Beach area, right? Tell me about your
Mostly, yeah.
Mostly. Tell me about your
Mhm.
parents, if you don't mind.
Sure. So my mom and dad met in Mexico on my mom's 15 birthday trip or whatever. And they got married when my mom was, she's 17 in Costa Rica. My dad, I think, was 19. They stayed there for a bit, moved back to Ohio. My dad worked for General Motors and opened the plant in Oklahoma, where I happened to be born. And then we went back to Ohio and then to Florida. So my mom she's originally from Costa Rica, and my father's from Ohio, like a all American very religious
Midwestern.
background. Oh, yeah, like Bible Belt. My uncles are pastors and, like that
Mhm.
thing. And then so my dad was the rebel, married a Catholic, and
Mm.
and,
From Costa Rica.
and from Costa Rica, didn't speak English, okay? Brings her to Ohio, but she was real pretty.
This is great.
And yeah, brings her, and so my mom is about 5 foot barely, and my dad was 6'2" and red hair, and my mom's like this va va voom curly dark hair with olive skin, and
This is great.
imagine in a little town in Ohio.
Oh my
And
gosh.
they thought, yeah, it was kind of funny, because I mean, I don't look, I have the colors of my dad, I have features of my mom, and but anyway,
Yeah.
so it's an interesting mix there.
Yeah.
And then my mom got sick in Ohio. The weather's just very cold. We were northeastern Ohio, and she grew up in Costa Rica, where it's tropical,
Yeah.
the rainforest and everything.
Yeah.
So we
So
moved here. Yeah.
got it. And then and so just jumping ahead a little bit, I know that what kind of well, let's ask this. I know you ultimately went to Florida Atlantic University, FAU, and in South Florida there, but what kind of high school kid were you?
Uh, Let me see. I was at first very studious. No, I think I always took it seriously. Like I always tried to
Mm.
keep my grades up.
Yeah.
At the end there, I was ready to go,
Mm.
but throughout, I think I was a pretty good student overall. I was in the Math Honor Society. I was
Yeah.
usually on the honor roll. I took AP classes. I mean,
Okay.
I didn't have my family pushing me whatsoever. My
Right.
sister was kind of on the opposite side of that. And
Yeah.
but my grandmother always told me education is your ticket. And so she goes, if you want a better life, get educated. So I made
Well,
sure, and they had that Florida Bright Future scholarship, and I was like, I'm gonna get that, so I don't have to worry about paying for my college, and I ended up getting
mm,
it. I but at the end there of high school, I had a really hard time. I left my house. I was 16. I was living on my own. I ended up getting an apartment and then working like almost full time, going to high school, and I was dual enrollment and AP classes and honors
mm,
classes.
mm.
So I had a full load there. I was on the swim team for a bit. I was the
Okay.
editor of newspaper. So I had a lot of things going on. So I was pretty productive, and I finished, with all the requirements for the scholarship, and then I went to college. So,
Right.
despite
And
all my I even got another scholarship from the principal because she knew of my home circumstances and,
mm,
nominated me for another scholarship, which was really nice.
right. So a lot of people were in your corner there. Something your grandmother said sounds like came to be true. She said education would be your ticket, and so at this, getting education, and ultimately it got you to Microsoft. One of the biggest, most prestigious companies in the world, and so that's kind of cool to know that your grandmother pretty much was right about
Yeah, she was always right. I loved my
that.
grandma so much.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
she was one of she had a lot of brothers and sisters, and she finished college and was an accountant for
Wow.
Fruit of the Loom, and she was the first in her
Is this
family
your
and
mom's side or your dad's side?
my dad's side.
Dad's side. Okay.
Yeah, she was, one of the first educated women. She went to Wellesley, I think, and
Yeah.
she graduated. Yeah, she did really good. I mean, and she didn't have help. She did it all on her own, and
So you were a finance major. You were numbers you were strong with numbers, and but entrepreneurship at this point wasn't really on your radar. I'm guessing, right? You're like, getting a great
it was
job, and
always on my radar.
okay,
I was
okay,
selling on eBay before eBay was really eBay.
okay.
Like,
So okay, all right, okay,
I always had something. On the side,
hmm,
I
okay,
used to work at Best Buy. I was a cashier when I was 16. When I left my
okay,
house, I got a job there, and they gave us an awesome discount. And and so we got, like, these products for cost, and then I just go and sell them on eBay for a little bit more. I mean, it was an awesome business. I buy, like, especially the ones that have high markups, like car stereos and amps,
Yeah.
and I knew how to use the computer, and I used to build the computers too. I would
Mm,
buy, like, the parts and
yeah.
then put them together. I was, like, kind of a hustler in some ways, you know?
Gotcha. Well,
So
you kind of had to be. You were kind of living on your own,
I was.
16, 17,
Oh
and
my god.
but it was in you. So, okay, but you got this finance degree and you got the internship at Microsoft first, and then they made you the job offer there at the I want to say the Latin American headquarters for Microsoft, right?
Yeah, yeah. So they came to our school, or the career advisor came to one of my
Mhm.
classes and mentioned, "Oh, Microsoft Latin America's here, and they look for, interns." And I was like, "Ooh, I want that." And so I didn't yeah, I went f they didn't tell me that they were going to pass my resume along, however, they did, and I kinda mysteriously got a call. And at that time, I was actually waiting tables. So I was, um,
That's
working on
great.
a restaurant on the water, yeah, like, while I was in college. So I was taking a full boat, I was full-time, and then they were like, "So how does waiting tables help you with this job?" I was like, "Oh my god, really?" I went through 6 interviews for an internship, and
Wow.
so yeah, so it was good. I really liked it. It was,
Well, that's
I was
cool
I
though. But what a great feeling to know that you passed the muster with six people, like at Microsoft. Like that's even makes it even sweeter when you get that job offer.
I totally didn't think I was gonna get it. I kinda, like I prepared, but I was like, "Ah, I'm not gonna get this." I'm waiting tables. They want somebody, like, in the business, field or so
Yeah,
and at that time, I was in college, so I wasn't
yeah,
I didn't have the opportunity to work in that yet.
yeah. But
But, I
this is
just
why I
spoke from my
asked.
heart.
This is why I have stories about people in their high school and college years. 'Cause I want on these successful entrepreneurs to talk about just how scared and insecure we were as kids. And so like I work with college students now, and I just want them to know that that like we have an entrepreneur. Your entrepreneurial future is not preordained. You can have lots of struggles and lots of challenges, insecurity, lots of things, and you can still press on and be and go chase your dreams of entrepreneurship when the time comes. And we're all kind of human on this. You don't have to be a superhuman to do this.
No, you grow into it, right? So it's kind of like I wasn't you become the better version of yourself, every day. So it's kind of like you make yourself you grow into it like you grow into a pair of shoes. It's not something that you're automatically gonna poof, you're an entrepreneur and you have everything you need to be successful. It's a learning along the way, learning on the journey.
Yeah,
And you do it by kind of putting yourself out there, putting yourself in those experiences. And, when you get the opportunities, give it your best. I would always try to ask the people at Microsoft, I was like a sponge there. I was like, I need to learn everything from the best people here because I want, to take that in and become that. And so I would ask them, I'm like, what kind of advice would you give me? And I got I mean, such amazing people I got to be with. I'm so lucky. But they would tell me, whatever it is, give it your best. Like I remember I half asked something that I gave my manager, and he goes, "What if I told you that Bill Gates was going to be reviewing this?" And he says, "Would you have done it better?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Then do it better for me." And because he knew I don't remember what it was
yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
but I remember I rushed it and I just kinda turned it in,
yeah,
and for him, because I knew he was very meticulous and I knew he was gonna go through it in detail anyways. So, I was just like, "Ah, I'll just give it to him." And he
yeah.
was like, "Always give your best, no matter what it is." And
Right.
so, like, those things stuck with me, and
Yeah,
those are the things that grow you, and, uh,
yeah.
and
Well,
little by little, it's incremental, right?
so you kind of started rising the ranks there in that office. I mean, you worked for the number one or number two person there in terms of you were running all the financials and the P&Ls, and you were internal, like the financial analyst for a lot of what that office was doing for the first few years, right?
Yeah, for when I started, that Latin American office was not as big. It's like times 6 or 7 now than when I started, and a lot of the projects that actually, like, have full-on teams now and, was
Mhm.
some of my first projects there, and so, I got really lucky having some really good managers that really wanted to coach me and mentor me and, help me grow, and, so with that and then I also did other kind of professional courses there. They offered everything from language to this to that, like, you could take while you were there
Mm.
in the office and then some, like, outside, so I was signing up for everything. Communication, leadership, sales, everything that I could, possibly learn. And, the manager people who like to see that, they foster that growth. It's really an awesome thing. So when I say to people, when you're looking for opportunities, experiences, find those people who it's not only a good job, but the person that you're gonna be reporting to, make sure that person is supporting you and your career and what you're doing. Because you're not gonna jump if you wanna jump into entrepreneurship right out of college, and you really feel like you can do it, but if not, learn what you can, from a company. See how they
Right.
do things, processes, operations, all those little
Yeah.
things that you need to do in a company you don't think about. They do, and they've mastered.
Yeah.
So, you know, all those
Absolutely.
financials, I learned, how to like do P&Ls, how to manage finances, how all of those, how to create insights, how to learn from the numbers, what it's telling you. All of that now. Actually, that's what my businesses do. They
Yeah.
produce analytics. So it's numbers and data are powerful. And so learning all of that really, set the stage for me.
Brought it all, and you were able to,
Mhm.
it still carries with you to this day. And then you
Yeah.
had a big shift in your career at Microsoft there, where you you know you were like, internal numbers, running all the P&Ls, and but all the people having fun were on the outside, traveling to South America and meeting with customers and and partners, and I don't know if you asked for that promotion, or if they came to you, but you made a big shift right around there.
Yeah, so it was right after the crisis, I remember. I was actually having some big personal issues. It was mostly my health for some reason. I guess the stress of it all, and I wasn't even 30 at the time. I think I was
Yeah,
like 27,
I
28.
mean, these
And
P&Ls, the numbers, the reports, the deadlines. Whew.
the pressure, yeah. It's pressure, like, you're in a boardroom with all these executives, usually I'm the only female, I'm the youngest, and they're like, "What's this? What's that? What about this? Let's increase." And it's a lot of pressure, and there's negotiations involved, especially with budgeting and forecasting. They want you to, promise more money and promise this, pushing the finance people to, put that in there. It was a tough environment, that internal sales and, goal setting and finance, and it was consuming and it was getting to my health. And then I was actually going to different doctors because I was having migraines every day, and the doctors really couldn't help me. And then, so I started looking at alternative approaches, and then I actually started going to school at night for alternative medicine because I
Mm.
was just like, I need to learn about how to heal myself because this is not this environment. And then at the same time, I need a job that's less consuming, in that way. And so another manager mentioned to me a position that was open, working for him, and then I knew him. He was kind of, he was like in a different group, but still in the same group as me, and he knew me, and I said, "Well, hey," I said, "What about me?" And it was, more under the umbrella of marketing, so I was more under the umbrella of finance. And then it was under that umbrella of marketing, and he's like, "What makes you think you'll be successful in marketing? You've been just doing finance." And I said, "Whatever you put me in, I'll be successful. And I know I'll enjoy this, so I'll be even more successful. I will grow this for you." Like, I just knew it. Like, I knew him. He was a amazing person, and I knew that I could do that kind of thing with him, and at the same time, still have the balance. And I told him that too. I said, "I'm looking for balance, work-life balance." I said, "If you can, promise me that, you can have me." Like, it was kind of, I mean, it sounds kind of arrogant, but I had gotten to that level where I had, like, other
Yeah.
managers fighting over me. Like, I
Yeah.
really did. It was really
Yeah.
nice. It's kinda
Yeah.
like having 2 guys fight over you. It's kinda like,
It's the
it's
best
like,
position to
"Ooh."
be in, right? Because
I know,
you get to
right?
make the best pick, right?
Yeah, I was at that
You kind of
point
earned
where
it, but that
everybody
was
was
the
like,
but you kind of but here's the thing that you had paid the price to get all of that adoration. So it's like your health and your long nights and that like you the reason why you were in such kind of in a bad way is because you had just poured yourself into pleasing everybody to the point where they loved you and thought you were great and they wanted you. But that's something also that we find with entrepreneurial mindset in these companies is that the other chapter I have a chapter called You Are a Threat. I have another chapter called You Will Get Used Up. You will get
"Mm,
used up. I think it's the chapter before, right after the You Are a Threat. And it's exactly this, where
yeah,
especially if you have a pleaser mentality, like so many entrepreneurs do, because we're trying to, please a customer or the market, right? Like inside of a company, they know that you're the one who will come through, go the distance, put in the extra hours, results oriented, make it perfect because that's kind of what you do naturally and it's the only way and especially if you're trying to please others and then so that's actually the entrepreneurial profile.
yeah, sure." I had one manager, he told me, he goes, "If you don't have more than you can do, then I'm not giving you enough work."
Mm,
So, like, he's like, "That's just how it is." And then he showed me how to prioritize, but it was kind of like my lesson, there, kinda growing up there, and, that was the culture there. I mean, the culture was you always had more than you possibly could, and they set it up that way because they felt like they got the most out of you, like,
right.
using you up. It's kinda like, okay, if they only asked for 10 units, they're only gonna get 10 units, but if they ask for 50, but you can only produce, 25, well, they got 25, not 10, you
That's
know?
right. That's right.
So,
Yeah.
it's it's just that's their, and honestly, there's a like you said, there's a price that comes along with that, which is balance of the people. I mean, I saw some people get very sick, very stressed out, families suffer. I mean, it's not sustainable. It's really not sustainable. And you get that burnout. You see a lot of people burn out
Yeah, and so
and
it's
leave.
funny. It's funny. People think startups are risky, but I would argue that work trying to climb the corporate ladder is risky. Not only is it risky that you screw up the politics and get fired or become not successful, but getting used up and your health and or being laid off or the market change like corporate ladders are risky. So people say startups are risky. In the big scheme of things, when it comes to your career, I don't know that you could argue startups are more risky, honestly. Because I
Yeah.
would bet any day on my controlling my own destiny. Yeah, it's financially risky, but it's a lot less risky in some ways.
I mean, if you look at anything as risk, right? You go outside, a tree branch could fall on you. I
Mm,
mean, you can measure the probability of risk, and it's also your comfort level of risk too. I mean, some people think, certain companies are risky because of this or that. I think in the end, you that's where mindset comes in. Nothing is risky when you believe in yourself and you believe no
right,
matter what, it's gonna work out. No matter what happens, it's gonna work out, and just keep thinking that and keep kind of just moving and progressing, and then you eliminate that risk. I mean, or at least like it goes down substantially because there is a lot of power in that.
right,
So, I mean, it's risky in a job when you don't like it. It's risky in a job when you hate what you're doing and your boss treats you like crap. That's when it's risky because it's not sustainable. Now, if you get comfortable and then have a boss that doesn't really care, that doesn't support you either, because now you're not going anywhere, you're just stuck, and so you have risk of being stuck, you have risk of losing your job, you have risk of your unhappiness. I mean, you have risk of everything there. So it just depends on what you will put up with. You get what you put up with. So in the
Right,
end,
you do. Right. You get
you
to
really
pick
do.
pick your poison, right? Pick your
I
risk.
know.
Pick the risk that you want
Yeah,
to live with,
you know,
right?
and what matches for you and what you want in your life. Some people just want one job and
Hmm.
take care of a family, and that's fine. And that's their path. And if they
Right.
can be happy doing that, so be it. But the entrepreneur can't. And we
Right.
know it because we will go crazy in our, I'm just
Absolutely
like,
go crazy. Misery,
and
misery, misery.
yeah.
And it can be
So,
your own secret too. Like you being the entrepreneur mindset. The person is unhappy, like they don't. Because they're usually like a high achiever at work, so they can't wear it on their sleeve. So it's kind of like a secret misery. Like I would go home, I'd be, everybody thought I was perfectly happy and awesome at work, but I'd go home and my wife would know that I was miserable, but nobody at work knew I was miserable.
hmm, we can put a good face, right, at work. That's,
Yeah, but because I mean,
yeah.
you know, I'm climbing the ranks at work. I'm being successful at the job, and so
Mm,
but I'm secretly miserable,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. I know. It's a tough thing to kind of take responsibility for, you
Right.
know?
How
And
did you?
so how I got through it, like, because there was a quite a bit of time there where I knew I was gonna leave, and I just, I had my daughter. My husband also has a business, and he left Mercedes and started his business. So,
Mhm.
and I was so I was carrying the weight of the expenses, and so at that time, I just felt, like, trapped, and I was like, "I wanna go," and I wanted to
Yeah.
leave at that time by then. But I just had to tell myself, "I'm gonna take every day as a learning experience and get what I can, learn what I can from what's around me to take with me when I'm ready."
So let's talk about the leap, right? So we got earlier we talked about kind of how you reached that unfulfilled moment, and the tipping point happened, and you talked about a few things, but like walk us through like the moment where it became real, like you were going to leave, and what were the conditions, and how did you pull it off?
Oh my god. Um, it never goes as you plan, so
Hmm.
that's one, exactly how you plan. I mean, even, when my daughter was born, I had a birth plan. I had printed it out on a piece of paper, and I passed it out, and it still didn't go to plan. So I mean, you can plan as much as you want, but at the end of the day, you just kinda go with the flow, and you make an intention, and I wish I could talk to my other self. So I started to set up, before when I knew, I started to set up I set up, another company, a consulting company. I started to do some, like, outside stuff. I had a startup actually while I was at Microsoft, trying to see if I could get that going. So I was trying different things already when I
Hmm.
was, in for, I would say, about a year, maybe a little bit more, I don't know. And then, so I had, and it was always in me, but I started to actually do stuff and, partnered with some people, the software development company, another partner. We try to get something going and didn't work out, but I still was able to do my job and keep things going. And then let me think. After that, it didn't work out. I kind of closed the book on that startup, but I still had my job at the time, but then I started to do Smart Edge. So Smart Edge started, and that was so Smart Edge. We focus on kind of analytics for retailers, and
Yeah.
I was working. And the reason that kind of came to me was because that's what I was doing. I was
Yeah.
working with
Yeah.
the distributors, with the
Uh-huh.
retailers in Latin America, and helping grow
Yeah.
those businesses. And so when I saw that and I started to talk to the partners and, understand what Microsoft priorities were, I saw some opportunities in the market.
Right.
And so that's when I started kind of putting Smart Edge together.
Right.
And then what I did was I just started reaching out to people that either I knew from my network or even on LinkedIn. I was just kind of connecting with people on LinkedIn, and just saying, "Hey, would you like to have a conversation about this?"
Right.
And it was just there was a lot of serendipity that was just like it was like I couldn't believe it. Like
Right.
literally, like I remember one day I was like, I need to talk to a data expert that really knows like
Right.
data architecture and this and that. And then literally that next day, like
It
somebody's
shows up.
walking down my street. Yeah, and the little girl, the father that's walking, I know the little girl, she goes to the same school, Montessori, as my daughter, and then the father ends up being this data architect for Citigroup. And I was like, "Oh, cool." I was like, "I just said I need to talk to somebody like you." And then he ended up being like an advisor on the company.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
so like all these people started showing up and giving me, like support. And then I started sharing it at Microsoft a little bit because I was hoping to get some
Sure.
support too because
Yeah.
I really wanted to use I was looking at, okay, I want to be a Microsoft partner and I
Yeah.
want to bring these new solutions. Like that was what I had in my mind. And, the director, she's now the world or the GM of IoT for Microsoft. She was really supportive with me and amazing, and she
Right.
knew what I was up to, and I kinda confided in her. I've known her, since I was an intern, actually. She was on my team when I was an intern. So, I
Yeah.
told her what I was up to, and she was like, "Whatever you need, count on my support," which was great, and then she left and went to, corporate and moved or no, she didn't move, but she, wasn't on the team anymore.
Yeah.
And then it started to get, I a couple of people, like, started talking
Yeah.
indirectly about it, and so the rumors started and, "Oh, Christina's this," and then it actually started to create some problems, and
Yeah.
so,
You had to
like,
make
some
it official.
issues.
You had to make it official sooner than.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it started creating some problems, and people were misunderstanding it and saying that it was creating conflicts of interest and this and that, and I had checked with the HR department, and it really wasn't. Because I
Right.
hadn't done anything yet, right? So
Yeah.
I was just kind of I was in this space of, like,
Exploring.
developing the idea and developing the solution and what it
Yeah.
would be focused on.
Yeah.
And so, so then it just got to a point where I was just like, I'm done. Like I just got some things started getting said about me and I had made some money in the cryptocurrencies too. And so I was in a place where I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And then shortly after I did, and actually I had started to already get some interest from other companies and other partners. So I was just
Right.
like, "You know what? It's showing me all the signs." Like, the signs were there. Like,
Yeah.
the market was ready.
Yeah.
My ideas were making sense. The people I was talking to,
Yeah.
were showing up. I mean, I had someone for deployment. I had someone for data, someone for,
Yeah.
all these
See,
different IoT experts, and they were all helping me. I was like, "What is
it's a
going
wonder.
on?"
It's a wonder any entrepreneur we ever have entrepreneurs ever because of how hard it is to leave a job or company and become an entrepreneur. And we most of us focus on how hard it is to face your fear of risk and the money and all that good stuff. But there's this other side of the coin of difficulty where your company doesn't just clings onto you and coworkers act weird or whatever. Or then there's other things like it is really hard to get escape velocity. So it's a wonder we have any entrepreneurs born anywhere, right? Because they all have to leave a job somewhere. Like that, we that's the nature of entrepreneur. Like somebody, you got to leave a job. So isn't it amazing how hard it how hard it is to untangle, untether.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think it's, a personal thing too, because I look back and I look at myself and my mindset at that time. It was really, I grew up there, I was
Mhm.
fresh out of college and, they
Loyalty.
they raised me in a way,
Yeah.
professionally. So, and I had some lifelong friends there, that I went to their weddings and saw their kids being born. And, so there was a lot of like attachment, I guess you could
Yeah.
say, like
Yeah.
from my side. So it was really hard, it was really, really hard.
Right.
But it was kind of like the universe was kind of in a way pushing me and
Right.
saying, like, everything on the smart edge side was just blossoming. It was just like
Yeah.
boom, everything I wanted was just happening. And then
Yeah.
on the work side, it was like gossip and rumors and
Yeah.
BS, and I was just
Yeah.
like, "Oh," so I had this pain, and it was
Yeah.
like, and I kept hearing like, "Rip the Band-Aid," you know?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
rip it. And so, like,
And
anyway,
so you
so
did. And so
that
you
was
did.
it was tough.
And so you
It
did.
was
This is a
really,
great
really
story. I
tough.
think it's great that people hear it like this. Wow.
Mhm.
I don't think most people can, like, you think it's just hard for you to make the leap. It's got more tentacles and tethers to it than people realize. And if you hadn't had some cryptocurrency money, you wouldn't have been able to done it probably, right? So like, it's amazing how many things had to line up, for sure people have to save the money and to be able to make this leap, but there's a lot going on.
Yeah, and I had to, kind of I had to get more conservative with my costs too.
Hmm.
I mean, I got really spoiled, financially where I had, trips to Colorado and California and,
Hmm.
business class and this and that, and I got comfortable like with
Hmm.
that, and all of the whatever, purses
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
shoes and then I was just like, "Whoa, look at how much money I spend on that." And so I had to really kind of, you know, get more
yeah,
conservative with my costs. And that was
yeah,
hard for me because, it felt a little bit, I mean, you're a Leo, I'm a Leo. Like it was kind of like pride, my pride. I'm just like,
yeah.
oh, I
Oh yeah,
can't
I
do
have a
my
hard time.
eyebrows.
Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
hard time getting rid of my luxury needs, right? Like they become
Uh,
they become requirements, not just
yeah.
not just wants. They become needs, right? And they're like, wait a minute, and that's the danger of letting yourself slide too far that way. It's really hard to untangle it. Wow, there's so much to unpack. Like there, wow, it is so hard, isn't it, to break away and do this psychologically, structurally, relationship wise, but you did it. And do you remember your last day and or your first day? Is there anything that comes to mind of how good it felt or how bad it felt or anything like that?
Uh, it was like I can't think. I mean, it was surreal. Yeah, it I can't say I felt like it was like a mixed, like some parts of me were just like so excited, and then other parts of me was so scared, so but I think, also I've been through hard times, so I kind of went back to that and said I've been through tough times before. I can do this. I
Yeah,
don't need so many things. Like and it was, that I knew that it was going to force me to learn that because there's this scarcity mindset I think we all have. I mean, everything, look, we have limited supply of energy, limited of this, limited of that. It's kind of like our programming that everything is limited. And you really have to kind of transcend through that and go into that abundance mindset, and doing something like that is the only way to survive it. It's really to get into that abundance mindset and really say, you know what, I have everything I need. I have a roof, I have food, I
yeah,
have a car, I'm blessed. And like
yeah.
really like tell
And
yourself that every single day. Yeah.
and good things are gonna happen, not bad things.
Yeah.
Because your mind wants to go to all the bad things that are getting ready to happen or could happen, right? And you've got to hijack that. And like you said, with abundance mindset says good things are going to happen, more and more good things are going to happen. Whereas scarcity says no, it's going to get worse and worse, right?
Yeah,
you know?
and the human tendency is to pick the worst case scenario in your
Yes.
mind.
Yeah.
And so we have to shift that. So every time I was scared, it was because I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna have to, I don't know, live on the street. Or I'm gonna be homeless." Like, or something like that. What if I don't make it? I only have X amount of money that'll last me X amount, I was like calculating in my head. And
Yeah.
so like all of that stuff, it was and at that time, it was tough because my husband's business wasn't like flourishing. He was still kinda getting it up and going. So,
Yeah.
he's doing much better now, but it was tough. So I was like, "Oh, no, I'm gonna have to carry this burden," still.
And
And I just,
so your
you know
mindset right there was the difference. You either were going to go to a scared place because we had every reason to be, right? Of course, or you were
Mhm,
going to go to this fearless, for lack of a better word, place. And the only way, to
mhm,
your point earlier, the only way to survive these situations, we know this from surviving in nature. If you were stuck out in the wilderness with very little, I mean, we know this from survival situations, that your mind is going to determine whether you make it or not based on how it assesses the situation, right? Whether if it feels like all is lost and it's going to get worse and we're all going to die, then that's probably what's going to happen. If you think, no, we can figure this out, we're going to find a way, then you'll probably do that. And it's all right here, isn't it?
yeah. Well, that's what triggers it. I know science, they talk about the nervous system, and you can actually see it in your nervous system,
Mm,
which
mm,
side of the nervous system you activate. The fight or flight side, which is like that side goes into your arms and your legs, and it's getting you ready to run, or into that kind of, well, they call it like the oneness, or like the more, I guess you could say, peaceful, where you're at
yeah.
peace, you're grounded, you're kind of in that place. And it's a focus and it's an effort, like, so every time, and I use my emotions, like, that was what I learned, is like, when I start feeling that, I need to check my thoughts, because it's
Hmm.
so hard to check your thoughts. They're just running, like, all the time without you even knowing. So how do you stop it before it starts? It starts in your emotions. So when I would start to feel my chest, tighten up, or, "Oh my god, I got this bill because I went over my miles on my lease. Holy crap," or like whatever, and then my chest starts to, like, I'm like, "It'll be okay. I'll figure it out. It'll be fine," So you have to use, like, people think emotions are just for women in sad movies or something. No, emotions, there are guidance system to tell you what's going on in your mind,
Right.
to
Right.
put your mind in check.
Yes,
And,
and if you aren't control, if you aren't aware, conscious, and working on it, and actively, you're because your mind, unless we know this, the mind never takes you to a good place on its own, right? We just
mm.
something about the mind is just if left alone will always go to the scared, fearful place. I mean, just but so this whole idea of going to the other place is something you actually have to purposely make it do. Am I right about that?
Yeah, and you do that through a certain type of focus, right? So just saying, kind of committing to yourself that, when those thoughts come up, I'm going to, recognize them, but no, they're just a thought. They don't mean that that's what's so. You can
Yeah.
choose your thoughts like you choose your clothes, right? So
Right.
you choose your thought, like you're seeing a thought, oh my God, I'm going to end up homeless. Okay. That's just a thought, not going to happen. You can say, you know what? I'm going to work it out. Something's going to happen, and it's going to be fine. So you gotta check it, change it, shift it, move it in a different direction, and just go general with it. Like, don't say, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna make $1,000,000 next month, and if I write it down a million times, I'm gonna make $1,000,000." Doesn't work that way.
I
So,
love that.
you
I love
gotta
that.
you got
I love that you just said be general is okay, because there's this whole school of thought out there about being specific, and some things that make sense, of course, when you're doing, but being okay with general vibe and a general feel. I've done that. That's been my guilty. Like I'm people think that there's something wrong with that. I've actually lived my whole life with that. Like a general thought or general feeling towards something has always served me well without forcing myself to be super specific. Right.
Yeah, I learned that lesson too myself, because I was the same way. I would write all these goals, and I would be so specific, and I would say, I and I would be frustrated when it didn't happen. But it goes
Yeah.
to my point from before where you gotta be incrementally in going in the direction. Like, you can't jump 5 steps ahead. You gotta
Yeah.
jump 1 step. Like, you have to be able to believe it, you know? And if you say, "I'm
Yes.
gonna make $1,000,000 next month," it's not gonna happen because you don't believe it. But you can say,
Yeah.
"I'm gonna be okay." Hey, I can believe that. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
okay, you know? Going general is something that's going in that direction. Now, when you start getting momentum and you
Yeah.
start like you're just moving and grooving, now you get specific.
That's right.
Now
That's
you
right.
say, "All right, I want to get, 5 clients. I'm making $1,000,000 this year and da da
Yes.
da da da." So
Yes. Yes.
that's when you get specific, but not until then. Like you use the
Yeah.
general to kind of get you through, start getting that momentum and building yourself up because those are incremental steps that you can actually take.
Right. Well, Chris, yeah,
Mhm.
and when you're general too, you're open to the universe to send things to you, like the data scientist that you stumbled into, or opportunities. When you're general, you're open to opportunities, right? You're open to the universe helping you. Once you get
Mm.
specific, you're kind of closing down. You're closing down inputs,
Mm.
and that can be good, like
Yeah.
you said. That's good at a certain
Yeah.
area and place, but it's not necessarily good in your direction or mindset of life.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I use intentions because it allows you to be surprised. Because sometimes it works out better than what you thought the specific was going to
Yes.
be. And
Yes.
when you get too specific, you're limiting yourself,
That's
especially
right.
too early on. So
That's
if you
so
keep it general, like you get surprised and delighted. You're like, "Oh, that's even better than I was
that's
thinking."
this is the point I'm glad we hit. I want us to This is the point I want us to wrap this and end on, because I think that's what a cool thing for people to hear, that that you there is a certain flow to life, there's an intention in life, there's imagination in life, there's mind, you know where you put your mind, and all of those things are very general, and being open to the universe, and flow, and it doesn't, a lot of books and philosophies try to steer people away from that, and I've always hated that, right? Like, I think it's really powerful. A lot of other philosophies say, to your point, like, if you don't name it, it won't happen. If you don't write it down. So this is really a great place for us to end. I think it's a really great message for people out there to hear from you, and hopefully I'm adding to that a little bit as well, because there's so many aspiring entrepreneurs out there in jobs that are hoping to do what you've done and what I've done, and hopefully we've given them some confidence, down deep, right, in a deeper way in this
Yeah.
conversation. Is what I hope, at least.
Yeah. Just believe in yourself, know who you really are, and don't let anybody convince you otherwise.
Yeah,
Really. I
awesome.
mean, that's what it comes down
I feel
to.
like I may have heard your grandmother in there somewhere. I don't know. I
Maybe.
feel like
I don't know.
I feel
Who
like maybe
knows?
she said. I feel like your grandmother seems very wise. I just had to take a stab. Maybe she said that one day. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
She
not. I don't
she might
know.
have.
Probably somebody's grandmother. I don't know.
Somebody's
Probably
grandmother
some.
said that. I love it.
Wow. Well,
Well,
thanks for
Christina,
the time.
oh,
Really.
it's been
I
great. What
and
a
thanks
great
for
one.
what you're doing to help
Thank
others.
you.
That's
Thank you
amazing.
so Thank you so much. I really enjoy this, and I love it when I find people like you that I can pull these stories out of, and these inspirations out of, and it's wonderful. I look forward to doing a part two with you at some point down the road. Okay.
Sure.
Keep
Sure.
up with your journey, because you're really doing great things, and I'll need an update. I'll need an update at some point.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a good
Keep you
evening
posted.
yeah, absolutely, with your family, and thanks for doing this. And you and I will be in touch as we always are.
Okay. Thanks,
Okay.
Alan. Take care.
Thank you, Christine. Have a good
Bye-bye.
night. Okay. Bye.